the upcoming 25 years. And then what Joel said, are you more trying to focus on new techniques or new ideas or new approaches and not the old approaches? So I'm a little lost yet on what is meant by existing and new in the process.
I think that was kind of a question in your comments, so I'll try and respond a little bit.
It deserved to be in the first part, but I thought I'd sneak it into this part.
No, that's fair.
There should be clarification. Instead of asking for clarification.
And like you say, yes, that's perfectly fair. I guess what we mean between them, there's some new things certainly, but there's some old things. I mean, restoring a wetland, we've done that before. We need to do a lot more of it. So that's an old thing. We just need to do a lot more of, okay? On the new side, someone mentioned it, perhaps, maybe in a metro area especially, we've got impaired waters, restoring the entire watershed back to sort of a level that would allow that water body to be what it was when the buffalo roamed isn't going to happen. So what are some new methods that we can use to deal with that issue? And so there's a combination as I see it. And on the other hand, we have to decide and delineate between what we've been doing. We can do things that we've done before. We just got to make sure that what we're doing is added to what we would have otherwise been doing in terms of volume. Okay, that's one measure of more. It doesn't always have to be different, but different is easier to show that it's something additional. So we don't have the good answers yet. That'll be some of the evolution of this process going forward, and those two councils will spend a good bit of their time, as well as the legislature and the agencies, looking at that.
Part of this money will be used by PCA to crank up their monitoring and assessment work. So it is inevitable that that list of impaired waters, because we've got more funding, that list is going to get a lot longer. And they come off the list a lot slower than they go on. So as new problem areas are identified, they're going to get added to the queue. It's just not monitoring and assessment work. So it is inevitable that that list of impaired waters, because we've got more funding, that list is going to get a lot longer. And they come off the list a lot slower than they go on. So as new problem areas are identified, they're going to get added to the queue. It's just not only addressing those things we know about as current today's problems. It's going to be a dynamic picture that keeps changing.
Lee Keeley, Minnehaha Creek Watershed Board. I do agree very much with the people who think we need an empirical plan and a coordination either through a basin board or however that works. But on the other end of things, Steve, you mentioned citizen expectations. And education has been discussed. Citizen expectations, they have come forth, they've showed us how much they care. And these things do take 5 years, 10 years for anyone to see what the money has gone to. And I just am very, very concerned that these people who have voted for this expect something to happen within a year or two. And we all know that it's a long time before visibility is there, and I think they just need to be coached all the way through the process. Thank you.
Help manage expectations. Okay.
Yes.
Randy Neprash again. I'm going to, if I may, I'm going to list two comments because I don't want to have to keep asking for the mic over and over again.
You're not going to get the mic anymore pretty soon. So.
Then I won't give it back. First one is real specific. One of the real surprises in the single-page table of the Clean Water Council recommendations was a line item that read research on agricultural BMP effectiveness and load allocation. Speaking for all the entities that do good work in the metro area and outstate cities, it was amazing to see a line item like that without a corresponding line item that talked about research on urban BMPs and effectiveness and load allocations. So I would strongly urge that that be rectified. The other comment is much more general, which is there is a need, I think, it's shown up in a number of the comments today, to see the recommendations expressed in multiple ways. The poster child for this in my mind is there's been a lot of comment about saying, where's research in all of this? And in the conversations I've had with PCA people, one of the responses is there's a ton of research embedded in the TMDL program. But the problem is you look at these line items here and you can't see the amount that is allocated for research. So it may be appropriate to express these recommendations in 2 or 3 different ways. And the categories, I mean, just in a few minutes, the categories of interest are research, administration, education, demonstration projects for new technologies, reporting on the progress made under all this work, and then on the ground kind of traditional water quality improvement programs. I'm sure we could come up with other categories that need to be expressed so that people can see how the money is allocated among all those different aspects of the programs.
A short answer to that, or a short explanation really, is that Clean Water Council ran out of time to go into that detail. They have 4 work groups that work underneath the Clean Water Council. 4 work groups that consist of Clean Water Council members, and the one dealing with the research stuff did not have time to develop their ideas more fully and bring them through the whole council. So they have some working papers that probably appear on PCA's website, so you can see what they're thinking. It just didn't make the report yet, but it's a constant challenge because at this point they gave a summary table, and some of their other working papers have budget recommendations, agency by agency breakdown, and they're looking at it those different ways. They just haven't been publishing them necessarily.
Jay Riggs for the Washington Conservation District. I have 2 items. One, I want to put ditto marks under Mark's job. And number 2, I want to stress the importance of the state agencies having a united front, and when they approach the council and the legislature, and making sure that we continue to emphasize from all the state agencies the importance of this money going to the local units for local implementation.
All right, Paul Moline, Carver County. I'm just asking my mic time here to all be done. 2 points. I did tell our local Carver SWCD I'd pass along one comment they had, and that was to really emphasize permanent fixes. Permanent easements is a strong example of that. They feel those, I mean, they are. It's not a new approach, but it's one that would really make a big difference both for habitat and clean water use, whether it's wetland restoration or upland easements. It's not a brick and mortar project, but it's one that costs money, and this would be a good use of that money. Second one is just to highlight again that I'd like to echo something I think I heard you guys say about projects that have been identified in plans. So if that planning work has been done at a local level, whether it be a city plan, watershed plan, TMDL plan, it shows up in all those. Wow, that should be a pretty high priority project. And folks that don't have those plans pulled together, we got 25 years. And so the ones that have done the work up till now, maybe they are first in line, doesn't mean other folks aren't going to get money.
Well, the reason for those plans being such an important piece of it is that they are put together with a very important citizen input process, multiple mechanisms to accomplish that, and so that's why we put a lot of
NPDES permit. So quite frankly, the target is MS4 communities across the state. We're well aware that there's a significant amount of TMDLs or impaired waters that have no MS4 communities draining to them, or no permitted communities draining to them. And so there will have to be grants, otherwise there is no motivation to clean these impaired waters.
Well, I think we're a group of fixers, and that's what we're talking